It came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought the meaning, then there appeared and stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai, which called to me and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. This is a great time to talk about Gabe. Mr. Gabriel, Mr. Angel Gabriel. So, let's do a little angelology real quick. All right, study of angels, angelology. We have that we know of, we have a handful of angelic creatures that we know of from Scripture. So we have seraph angels, which Scripture says have 6 wings. It says they have 2 to cover their eyes, 2 to cover their feet, and 2 to fly with. They're fast. Messenger angels, right? We have seraph is a single, seraphim, I-M at the end means plural. So we have like car and cars. In Hebrews it's the word and then the I-M at the end is plural. So we have seraph, 1 seraph, 2 seraphim. We have cherub angels, not little babies with their butts showing. These are warring angels. They have 4 wings, Scripture says. So cherub angels have 4 wings. They're warriors. When you see Gabriel, you will always see him identified as a messenger. Gabriel is a messenger angel. Who was the angel that appeared to Mary to tell her about Jesus? Gabriel. Yeah.
They call him an archangel too.
He's an archangel because he has great authority. Yeah, he has dominion over legions of angels, right? So we're talking about pretty high up on the power chain here. On the demonic world, we also have hierarchy. Scripture says we have principalities and powers and rulers of darkness, right? Principalities are over areas, they're over geographic regions, they're over people groups. Powers are the lesser demonic spirits that are over like cities, neighborhoods, things like that. Then you have familiar spirits, which trail people around and watch what they do and listen to their conversations and report back. There's an entire hierarchy of the demonic, just like there is of the angelic hosts. So you have angels that are evil and you have angels that are elect. 2 different classifications. We'll end up talking about some of the evil angels as we go into the Revelation because there are parts that talk about it. But what we have here is a reference to Gabriel. The other angels that I didn't talk about, we have angels that are known as beasts. We'll see them in the Revelation. They look like a lion, they look like a calf, they have the head of a man. It's like the amalgam of different body parts of different animals, and that's the best way that a person was able to explain what they look like. So we have seraph angels, we have cherub angels, and we have things that we know as beasts. All right. So with that in mind, let's keep reading. Let's see here. Okay, verse 17. Verse 16. Gabriel, make this man understand the vision. So Gabriel came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. If you had a 10.5-foot angel with 6 wings standing in front of you, I would imagine you probably would do the same thing. Right? That ceiling is just shy of 8 feet, or right at 8 feet. So it's 2 feet above that ceiling. That would mean that his chest size is probably 78. Right? 6 wings, 10 feet tall, 10.5 feet tall. I fell on my face, and he said to me, verse 17, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. At the time of the end shall be the vision. So in other words, this vision was given 600 years before Jesus, but the understanding of it was preserved until the end times. We're the first generation that gets the chance to understand this. It's our generation. The people, the last 100 years, 120 years of humanity are the ones that get the privilege of understanding the Scripture. It's going to end in the end times. Now he's speaking with me. Now, as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep, on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me up straight. Verse 19, and he said, behold, I will make you to know the things on the last end of this indignation, of the judgment. For at the time appointed, the end will be. The ram which you saw having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. So, the ram right here, the Medes and the Persians. We have this kingdom, global, conquered the known world at the time. The Medes were first, the Persians came up afterwards, they conquered, they became greater than the Medes, they joined forces, and it was known as the Medo-Persian Empire. And they ruled until the next one. The rough goat, the king of Greece. and in his eye, had a great horn between the eyes, is the first king. So, the king of Greece. Who was the king of Greece? Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was the first king of Greece that conquered the world. Alexander the Great died at the age of 27, 28 years old from a swamp fever. Died young. It says now that king, now it says that he was the first king, that first king was broken, it says. Remember it said earlier on when we were reading this, back here on, it says verse 8, when he was very strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable winds toward the four winds of heaven. We're being reminded here, now verse 22, now that being broke off, whereas it stood up four kings, there's out of him will be four nations, but not in his power. Here's what happened. Alexander the Great dies when he's like 27, 28 years old. He dies. His dying words, he has a son. Alexander the Great has a son. And normally what would happen is you would transfer your kingdom to your son. He would take over and be the king. Alexander's son was a wuss. And he knew that he was a wuss. And Alexander's dying words were, give my kingdom to the strong. So the council of Greece had war games. And they invited all the men of Greece to come and battle. And whoever survived the battle that was willing to fight for it would become the king of Greece. Well, Alexander the Great had four field commanders, Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. They could not kill each other. No matter what they did, they could defend themselves. And so the decision was made to divide the Grecian kingdom up into four kingdoms. They four, as kings, decided to take a piece of land and give it to the son so that he had something of his father's kingdom. But they never let him rule. And so the Greek kingdom was divided up into four, Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. You might recognize the Ptolemaites, the Seleucids, the Ptolemaic dynasty. Do those words ring a bell? So Ptolemaic dynasty ended up being in Egypt, northern Africa. The Seleucid dynasty ended up being what we would now know as Iran, Iraq, Israel, Judah, that area there, and it stretched, the Seleucid dynasty stretched all the way around the northern part of the Mediterranean Sea, all the way over into southern Germany. We have a former president that's actually from the Seleucid dynasty. His family line comes from there, and we've only been without him for 4 years now. 2 years. So, four kings came out of the Greek. That's the four horns. Verse 23, in the latter time of their kingdom, right? So the world's divided up into four kingdoms. We have the Ptolemaic dynasty, the Seleucid dynasty, Cassandra, the Cassandric dynasty, right? Cassandric? Anyways, so we've got those four. In the end of theirs, when transgressors are come to the full, remember we talked about how it said the spirit, we were talking about the spirit of lawlessness in Matthew 24? On almost without law, transgression abounds, Jesus said, in the end times. Without law, they will be without law. This is what this says. In the end times, when the transgressors come to the full, in other words, when people are living with the most amount of lawlessness, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences will stand up. Remember, this horn in the previous chapter had eyes that it could speak in a mouth, right? We talked about how it would be something different. It's going to be a leader that's not the same. This is agreeing with it. This is a person that has a fierce countenance, understands dark sentences, knows how to be manipulative, how to get things done covertly. His power will be mighty, but not by his own power. He'll destroy amazingly, will prosper in practice, and will destroy the mighty and the holy people. This person that's going to rise up is going to end up being empowered by something other than himself. We know from the book of the Revelation it is because of Satan. Satan is the empowerment behind this king. Through his policy and his craft, he will he'll magnify himself, and by peace he will destroy many. He'll stand against the Prince of Princes, against Jesus, but he'll be broken without hand. In other words, this is the last king that exists prior to Jesus' return. When Jesus comes back, he is going to end up destroying this king. This is the one king, the last king that exists.